All right. The time has reached 6 p.m. here in Estonia. Wherever you guys are located, I'm happy to reach you at any given time. And now we are going to share the screen here real quickly. And let me know if you can see the screen. If you see the presentation side. Unfortunately, I lost the chat, but that's all right. We have people monitoring the chat, monitoring our LinkedIn live. So that means whatever questions you or thoughts you have, just put them in the chat. We'll get to them all later, part of the presentation in the Q&A section. And yes, also an important thing to mention today, towards the end of the presentation, we'll be giving away 10 free website localization audits to the fastest people, obviously. So that's worth sticking to the end parts of the presentation to receive this golden prize. But yes, let's start with some introductions. Also, the webinar will be recorded, so you can later view it in your own pace, in your own time on our YouTube channel. But as I mentioned, I encourage you to stay because there is a prize at the end of the webinar. I'm Anders. I'm from Estonia. So my background is about 5 years in e-commerce. I worked with smaller brands, smaller companies that have done localizations and market expansions from the scratch, and also worked in enterprise type of businesses with already multiple countries to manage. Here at Scandinavia, I'm a customer experience manager. During my time here, I worked with about 30 different e-commerce businesses and projects from various industries. And that gives an extensive overview of different markets. So in the agenda today, basically, we have starting off with cases. As I mentioned in the webinar promotion as well, we have real-life examples of good localization practices and also bad localization practices. So you'll hear a bit about both, about how they ended up in those places. Then we will walk through the localization ABC, basically the 4 steps of any website localization process, which is preparation, adaptation, testing, and quality assurance, and also ensuring continuous improvements. And the later parts of the presentation will also host a Q&A, answering all of your questions, answering all your ideas that you have throughout this presentation. So please be sure to drop them out in the chat as we go along with the presentation, and also touch upon how we can help your business in this process. So to start off, what is localization? Now, in its formal term, localization stands for adapting a product or content to fit a specific market or country and adjusting its functional properties to accommodate the linguistic, cultural, political, and legal differences. So, in short, to put it in a fancy way, website localization stands for creating a seamless and meaningful experience that transcends geographic and cultural boundaries. So it goes beyond a mere translation. It has to ensure that every element from text to imagery feels native and also is reaching its targeted user base. With that being said, we'll start with a few examples that showcase the consequences of poor localization practices. And these are quite well-known businesses, so bear with me, those are rather interesting examples. And the first one is an US retail giant, Target, that decided to launch a massive expansion campaign to Canada back in 2013. So while they have successfully executed an extensive marketing campaign across multiple platforms, they use TV, they use print, billboards, social media, and much more. The implementation of this localization strategy had shortcomings. And why is that so? Well, the store locations were quite frequently inconveniently situated, with the Canadian stores didn't match the quality, appearance of the US counterparts, which means the Canadians that previously had an experience in the States had a very good experience and now saw that this didn't live up to what they previously witnessed. And also new customers got a very bad initial impression. And that didn't end there, because Target also had some logistic issues happening. So a combination of extensive renovation needs, so to say, in physical stores, flawed merchandising system, and also a tight time frame, those summed up into a big bad case. To close, initially, Target had to close all of its 133 stores in Canada. So a big step back from this initial expansion plan. And what we can learn from this is that first impressions are crucial, and once customers are let down, it becomes increasingly difficult to regain their trust again. So you have to be top-notch in your execution. Surely something that Google would do nicely, but there are some cases where even the biggest companies make mistakes. So back in 2006, Google made this decision to launch a new search engine in China, and it had to agree to censor some bits of its content, which, if you think in China's case, wouldn't be a big deal. At first, Google initially appeared to be succeeding in that mission even, but that had a public backlash. So while this was fairly well-known practice in China, Google's decision to adhere to these censorship regulations led to negative press, a loss of trust among its global users, and criticism even from human rights organizations. And not to end there, the Chinese search engine market was already a highly competitive and dominated by multiple local players. So that was also a combination of Google's inability to navigate the China's search engine market, also to stand true to their mission and vision statements. That ultimately led to the decision to withdraw from the Chinese market, and that happened 4 years later. So looking at this case, again, understanding the market is one thing, but also staying consistent and true to your brand values, which in this case, Google's mission statement is to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. And that didn't go well together with the public opinion of Google's practices in China. Another example comes from eBay. And eBay, as most of you already know, American online marketplace, they faced also significant challenges when expanding into Japanese market. Despite being super successful in the US and other countries as well, why did they not succeed in Japan? So their original plan didn't really align with Japanese consumer preferences, because eBay is originally designed for individual sellers and auctions, and Japanese e-commerce users had a strong preference for fixed price listings, and also a high level of customer service and a focus on authenticity. So eBay's auction-based model and a lack of strong local partnerships they couldn't find on the ground led to its inability to gain a significant market share. Ultimately, eBay decided to withdraw, and of course, Japanese market sold its operations to a local competitor. So what we can sum up this case in Japan is that one-size-fits-all approach most of the cases doesn't work very well, especially if we're switching from markets that are culturally very different. But luckily, it's not all bad. We have also some fascinating cases for market expansion and great localization strategies. So to start with, Netflix. As you know, Netflix is now streaming pretty much all over the world. And they are a prime example of a successful website localization and market expansion. So in 2010, they were primarily US-based streaming service. However, they wanted to be international. So they expanded to Canada, which was a pretty similar market in their sense, same language, and they had a lot of success in it. But after that, they understood that reaching new markets cannot be done with the same way. And Netflix invested heavily into localizing its content, including dubbing and subtitling for movies and TV shows in multiple languages. They also tailored their content library to suit local tastes and preferences. And therefore, they made their services more appealing and also accessible for a global audience, which is contributing to their worldwide success. So to mention a few key takeaways from their case, what has worked incredibly well for them is to have market-based approaches. And they do it really well. They have personalization algorithms, they have language localization, and also original content based on local preferences. Another super good example, Airbnb. So I also believe most of you have used Airbnb at some point in time. Airbnb is a platform that allows individuals to rent lodging and travel experiences worldwide. So their website localization efforts have been also super important in their global expansion, that they are now in 220 plus countries. So they started by making their platform available in multiple languages and accepting also multiple currencies, which is important. They recognized that the importance of localization is not just the language, but also user experience. So what they did is actually super interesting. They sent small teams to understand the local market, talk to the hosts, rent out some properties, see where the shortcomings are, and do an in-depth market research, not only in theory, but also with boots on the ground. So they localize property listings and descriptions, allowing hosts to provide information in their own language. And additionally, their review system then helped build trust among users from different cultures. And these efforts made Airbnb as user-friendly and trustworthy for people worldwide, driving global growth. And what we can take away, again, utilizing local partners is important. Their small teams on the ground brought them valuable insight from shortcomings within the rental market to utilize in their localization strategy and to gain this competitive advantage. Now, another case is a fairly known Swedish furniture and home goods retailer, IKEA. So they also have expanded into various markets, and they have a lot of physical stores all over the world. And an important thing to understand is that they know that furniture preferences, room sizes, and cultural norms vary from country to another. And they have invested heavily in website and business localization that not only translates their website into local language, but also showcases specific furniture and home decor that resonates with the local culture. So by taking these steps, IKEA creates a personalized shopping experience for customers in different regions, leading to a successful market expansion. And additionally, their product differentiation strategy is to design products to cater the needs and preferences of different customers in different markets. For instance, it doesn't make sense to advertise Swedish minimalistic furniture in India. Instead, they offer locally sourced mattresses and sofas made from local materials. So the company builds a strong brand around sustainable designs that resonate with consumers all over the world. Another example in China. So balconies are very common in China. So they made entire sections on balconies in their virtual and physical showrooms. Also Korea, they understood that Korean bedroom sizes were much smaller than those in America. So they created super single beds, basically smaller single beds, and that helped resonate with the Korean market much more. So again, the takeaway here is to understand your clients, understand your market that you're approaching, and to really resonate with them. Now, how can you possibly put all of these vague ideas into practice? So website localization consists of 4 key steps. And the first one being preparation. Obviously, you need to do a little bit of market research, set your strategy, but then you need to act upon it. So there's a lot of adaptation, SEO localization, translations, compliance, and also that involves hours and hours and hours of testing and quality assurance. Also getting some input from voice of customer. And if all of this is done, then obviously the process doesn't end there, because we want to ensure continuous growth, continuous improvements. So the measurement process continues and repeats basically the cycle. So we'll get into more detail in each one of those, starting with market research and strategy. As you know, market research is a critical step in any business's decision-making process, especially when we consider market expansion, website localization. And the main aspects, as the first one is already shown, is understanding the target market. So defining the specific market or audience that you intend to reach with your products or services, and also identifying the demographics and behaviors of this given target audience to resonate with them the most. Then, of course, competitor analysis. It's really important to know and identify, analyze your key competitors in the target market, evaluate their strengths, but also their weaknesses, their current market share, strategies. So identify pain points that the market has and make them your competitive advantage. Also, market size and growth, as briefly mentioned, is important to determine to fit your growth potential model, assessing current market trends, including growth rates and forecasts. So to say, being ready to a realistic growth scale. Customer needs and preferences are important to understand, as it was beautifully displayed by all the examples as well, that this is important to understand the needs, preferences, but also the pain points of potential customers, identifying what products, features, or services are in demand, and how to improve them. The key isn't to invent something entirely new, but to solve something that is working and do it in a better way. Also, cultural and legal considerations. So researching cultural nuances, customs, preferences in target market. So basically familiarizing yourself or your team with local laws, regulations, and compliance requirements. So market entry barriers, identifying any barriers to entry, such as, again, a little bit crossing into this legal and cultural compliance section, identifying them, having them within your strategic planning, and knowing how to overcome them. Also, distribution channels, determining the most effective distribution channels for your products or services in the target market, assessing your logistics capabilities, transportation, supply chain, and also where you could utilize local support. Then obviously data collection and analysis. So collecting relevant data beforehand about the target market and analyzing the data to draw meaningful insights and trends set you up for a better prepared approach. Risk assessment, evaluating potential risks that's associated with entering new target markets and developing strategies to mitigate and manage those risks. And then we get to budget and resource planning and market entry strategy. So basically developing a clear strategy based on your research findings, based on the budget you want to allocate to this localization strategy, and deciding on the approach, whether it's through partnerships or your own e-commerce. Yes, and then we reach to the second part, which is actually putting it all into practice, the adaptation. So as we know, language plays a critical role in making the website accessible for a global audience. A full website translation actually involves adapting every element of the website, from text to multimedia content and into the target language. When translating the website, it's also crucial to ensure that the page and design of the page doesn't break. We've had several projects where everything is absolutely top-notch in English, but as soon as we translate it into another language, words tend to be shorter or longer, and that can make elements go out of alignment or collide with each other. So it's important to be prepared for this. Benefits of full website translation are, of course, relatively great. So increased accessibility, obviously by translating the entire website, you make it more accessible to a broader audience, which can lead into an increase in traffic, an increase in engagement from the local users. And also users are more likely to engage with a website that speaks their language, leading to longer visits and higher conversion rates possibly as well. A fully translated website shows commitment to the target market, building trust, building credibility, and not to mention the SEO benefits. So proper translation helps to improve search engine rankings quite a bit in the target language. That leads to broader visibility. So there's also cultural differences. And the question here is, do all cultures, people use websites the same way? And the answer is obviously no, because different cultures use websites very differently. And some of the examples of those cases are color preferences. So in various cultures, colors may have different meanings, different associations. For example, if we take China, again, red is often associated with luck and celebration, Chinese New Year. But in Western culture, it may represent danger. So websites targeting Chinese users may use red actually for positive elements, while Western websites, not so much. Another thing is content density. Another thing is content density. So some cultures prefer minimalistic and clean website designs, while others may be accustomed to a bit more content dense website. If you ever stumbled upon an Asian website, a Japanese website, then there is a lot of content, and they are used to it. That's the way they consume their information on the websites. While in Europe and US, West in general, we might have more simplicity and go for an aesthetic look. And the differences also come in navigational style. And so different cultures can influence how users navigate the websites. So some cultures prefer a bit more linear and structured navigation, while others are more comfortable when it's chaotic and free for style. So, for instance, there's Examples from Arabic users may expect a right to left navigation flow, while Western users are accustomed to a left to right navigation, and that comes from the handwriting, for example. Then there's also communication style, tone of voice. So website content may vary based on cultural norms. Some cultures are a bit more concise in their communication, while others prefer more elaborate and polite language. If we take again Asian culture, Japanese websites, they may use more formal language and be a bit more polite in their tone of voice than compared to other cultures. And of course, it's worth mentioning local seasonal campaigns that affect purchasing behavior quite a bit. All right. To the technical and legal readiness part of the adaptation, which is also a big bulk of the work. So ensuring that essential local partners is a very successful approach in website localization strategy. So it is recommended to consider partnering with local payment service providers. Oftentimes people are used to paying with their local bank links, paying with their local provider solutions. So to accommodate the diverse payment preference is a good practice. Again, this applies to delivery options as well. So this is also a part where local partners might be utilized very well to ensure timely and cost-effective deliveries, and also providing the option for transactions in the local currency to enhance your user experience and build trust. As well as legal compliance, that's also a big work to navigate the regulatory landscape of the target market. Sometimes they tend to be different, even in the field of e-commerce. So understanding and adhering to those regulations with a focus on areas like data privacy, accessibility, and also consumer protection is super important, as well as maintaining an updated terms and conditions that presents you in a professional manner. Customer support, again, really, really important. Localized customer support is a critical component of user-friendly experience for any website hoping to expand to new markets, ensuring that users can access assistance in their preferred language and the preferred time zone. That builds trust and provides a seamless support experience for shopping on the website. And also a bit more technical, but choosing the right content management system to efficiently manage multilingual content on your website to support your localization strategy is important, as well as content delivery networks to ensure a responsive user experience. And often overlooked, but also important, selecting hosting services that optimize website performance, considering factors like server location, for example, that can considerably enhance load times and responsiveness when close by. And SkyDiweb is a Magento agency. That means we have had quite a bit of experience working with content management system, which is Magento for us. And there are a couple of reasons why we choose Magento for websites that also try to be localized in multiple markets. The first and the biggest one is scalability. So Magento is an excellent choice for businesses with expansion plans because it can handle a growing number of products, customers, and orders, making it suitable for both small and large e-commerce operations. And as we mentioned, e-commerce already, Magento is purposely built for e-commerce. It offers a wide range of features and functionalities. And what's really important is that it allows for extensive customization. So let's say we have applied all of this in practice, what now? Now, it is also important to test it. Testing plays a critical role, ensuring successful website localization. And the key aspects to take away from testing is that, as previously already mentioned, translating website content and changing its imagery and a little bit of the build of the website can cause some alignment issues, can cause some of the design breaking. So it's important to assure that this is accurate and everything is still in its place, including text, images, video, and other elements of the website. And also doing functional testing after this process, such as are the forms delivering where they need to be, is navigation correct, user interactions, does it work as intended in the local version. Then we do a lot of performance testing, ensuring speed, responsiveness, and especially in regions with different network conditions. So important to understand that the internet speed might not be as good everywhere in the world, as well as SEO and metadata checks. So making sure that our approach, our strategy is optimized for the target market, and testing other aspects such as involving potential customers. So this goes a bit more into the qualitative side of the testing, but can be very, very useful, collecting real-time feedback from focus groups or even initial users, or conducting usability testing. So assessing user friendliness and user experience in the localized version of the website will give a competitive advantage because we know the feedback right from the customers. And of course, it's important to keep the feedback coming, both quantitative and qualitative feedback, to ensure continuous improvement. So progress analysis can consist of different things, and it depends a little about what the key performance indicators are set to be. But nevertheless, website traffic needs to be monitored, needs to be, conversion rates needs to be split by different localized traffic, and we need to understand different markets and invest time into analyzing those markets, analyzing bounce rates, user engagement, SEO performance, as well as gathering qualitative feedback, such as customer feedback and satisfaction surveys, and also evaluating feedback from the customer support side. So that involves regular data collection or reporting, of course, based on the KPIs. Also A/B testing and multivariate testing. So A/B testing is the only scientific approach to test whether something is working on the website the way it's intended to be. And also user surveys, as mentioned, feedback loops. So identifying user pain points right on from the early phases of localization is much more beneficial for the business. And continuous competitor analysis. So monitoring competitors consistently and their activities on the local market, the trends that they're following, and benchmarking it to your performance to stay ahead and stay in this competitive range. So to recap our practical ideas here about website localization. First step, preparation, getting ready, doing the market research, laying out the strategy, the budget, knowing if you're really ready for this step. Then putting it all into practice, testing and quality assurance, both qualitative and quantitative, and of course measuring the data you get for ensuring continuous improvements are made on the website and in the localization strategy. To talk about the key point to take away in today's webinar, I think is that summed up perfectly in this captionated word, that the real challenge of global strategy isn't really how big you can get, but how small you can get into those very minor details of each and every market, and make sure that your localization strategy takes them into account. Now we have reached the end of the formal part of this presentation. As I mentioned, for those of you that stick towards this moment, this is your chance to get a free audit for your website, free localization audit, but only for the first 10 participants. So you better grab out the phones and scan this QR code to be within those 10 first people that have this opportunity. So the goal of this audit is to provide actionable recommendations for your business and ensure that you are prepared for the process of website localization. Now this QR code with this little prize will stay up here in case any of you are still in the process of scanning it and filling out the form. Maybe you want to do it in a different device. It's still here towards the Q&A session. So in case of any questions, we will go through the chat now, but also you have the opportunity to reach us at any of the emails that are shown in the slides if you want to discuss the opportunities of how we can help each other, how we can help your business reach new markets. Then we are excited to speak with you. All right. We see some comments here. Presentation is visible. That's good to know. It's nice to see Mohammed agrees with my key example. Yes, exactly. Food. Yep. Going into technical details on how to do localization is beyond the scope of this presentation, or would you like to discuss it? Yes, this is rather giving an overview of how one's localization strategy could be in the general bigger scope, but of course getting into smaller technical details would take much longer than we have right now. But in case if you have any specific questions of any of the technical aspects, I am happy to discuss this with you, either through email, or if you want to reach out to me in any other type of form, then of course. Yes, we also see that there's no questions on LinkedIn at the moment. That is good. I hope that the first 10 lucky people are also already filled out the form from the QR code, and the feedback is coming in. Let's see. We are very excited to see and analyze what type of localization strategy could be utilized in your businesses. Do we see any more questions here? In the webinar chat, there is no new questions at the moment. But in case you want to point out anything, I am going to stay here for a few more minutes. And of course, again, you can always reach us in these emails, either my personal email or marketing@scandiweb.com. I would be happy to discuss any questions you have related to website localization. What is the recommended approach for adding a new language? Yes, that is a good question, Mohammed. Okay, that got a bit more technical. well, talking first about the fundamentals of the approach of adding a new language, we have all most likely seen these pages that have 20 or 30 flag icons, and all of those are translated automatically, right? And for a small business, that's a great idea. That's low cost, gives you a lot of exposure in different languages. But in most of those cases, it's usually either the site is a bit broken or the translations are not as good, and they are not considering any SEO research, any previous market research whatsoever. So again, translating your website into a specific local language itself is usually not enough to be present in that market, and that involves a lot of those aspects we talked about in terms of preparation before translating the website. But in terms of technical side, the plugins, I might not be the best person to give examples of that, but in case you want to know a bit more, we can always align on the tech team, because this depends a little on what content management system you're using, and also on what scale you would like to use these plugins for. So we have another question for data entry. Should the client be aware that they will need to enter it for each language? If I understand your question correctly, then yes, you need to be aware that this will need to be entered for each language separately. And also, considering a successful website localization, then it is good to align prior to translating, as I mentioned, with the SEO team, with the design team, with the technical team. Firstly, that the website will be okay, not breaking, and also that the translations that you're doing are benefiting your awareness on the web. Because one thing is to just have a translated storefront, but other is to actually be ranking with those keywords. So yes, I hope that answered your question, Mohammed. Yes, I think we can wrap up. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope the 10 first lucky fast companies have already filled the form. It's been a pleasure hosting this webinar. And again, in case you want to find out more, in case you want to discuss more, want to explore what options we have working together, don't hesitate to reach out. We can always jump on a call and see where you're at and how we can help. Yeah, so thank you very much, and I hope to see you in our future webinars. Bye-bye, and take care.